I know he talked a little bit about Amari Cooper in our next voicemail, kind of addresses him. Do we want to just play them back to back and we can kind of talk about both?
Absolutely. I think it's time to dive into that conversation. So here is Stacy.
Well, if that wasn't a Browns win, then I don't know what is. So at least we got the dub. But I will say one thing that was concerning to me in the game, I'm not sure if you guys feel the same, is Amari Cooper's performance. Honestly, this game and last game. And it's kind of making me a little bit nervous for what's to come. Because obviously he is supposed to be our number one receiver. And it's starting to look like he's just not being that guy for us. And I really have been banking on him being that guy, not only for the Browns, but also for my fantasy league. But what do you guys think about Amari Cooper and his future with the Browns?
Well, he screwed me over in 2 fantasy leagues so far to start the season.
I know he is. Let's see. We got the stats. He got. I was curious. I know he's struggling, but was it because of lack of opportunity? Was it just the drops? He's got 17 targets for 2 games. I mean, they're targeting him for sure. He has 5 catches for 25 yards. Yeah, it's almost as many drops as catches this year. And there's been some drops where they're not considered drops, but they're Amari Cooper drops, in my opinion. Like, it might have been a tough contested catch, but Amari Cooper catches that, and you expect your number one wide receiver to make that play. So he's been credited with 4 drops, and honestly, it could be 6 or 7, to be honest.
Yeah.
A lot of talk I've heard is that he's just not motivated to play for the Browns now after the offseason trade talk where his name was coming up a lot with the Ayuk trade. And then I don't think it was ever any real speculation with the Browns, but you heard in the Browns community about possibly trading for CD Lamb. I'm going to say this. I don't know if the Browns were ever really super on an Amari Cooper for Ayuk. There's been a lot of talk about how we were just driving the price up for the Steelers. I don't know what the truth is, what's not the truth, all that good stuff. I really don't think we were ever in it for CD Lamb. But even if Amari Cooper has a grudge against the Browns right now, it doesn't do him any good to play poorly on purpose because he's in the last year of his deal. If he comes out and plays poor this year, he's just costing himself future money.
Yep, exactly.
It doesn't no good to play poorly on purpose. I think he just is having a little bit of a rough patch.
I agree. So the drops, man, they're so uncharacteristic, and Blake must be wiping his nose or blowing it or something. I'm losing all my co-hosts. No, I'm just kidding. But the one off to I think it was in the first, second quarter down the sideline. It was on that. I think it was the second drive there. And I mean, just right through his hands. I mean, he was wide open, perfect pass, perfect placement. He just dropped it. And that's just so uncharacteristic for him. So like you said, 17 targets. I'm just going to run through some stats. 5 catches, 27 yards. But I was looking at some different data, some different databases and things like that. So Fantasy Pros, they have Amari Cooper with 243 total air yards in 2 weeks. This is the 3rd highest in the NFL. So you think about that, 243 air yards, and he has 27 actual yards. But Fantasy Pros also logs only 6 of Amari's 17 targets have been deemed catchable. So, and they only attribute 1 drop to him. PFF has 3 or 4, which, like you said, it's definitely 4 or more, honestly, that are on
There's
him.
no way he only is. How did they only accredit him with 1? He dropped 2 in this game.
Exactly. That's why some of these sites I look at, I'm like, well, I know that's not accurate. So that's why I use different sources. But they had 48.6 air yards per reception through 2 games. That's the highest in the league. So for me, just looking at that data, for me, I feel like just the big plays are coming for Amari. I think that it's something, he's on the yips, right? He's got something going on where it's just not clicking. But once it starts, they're targeting him heavily and down the field. He's got all these air yards, unrealized air yards. They're going to start coming. It has to, and I hope it starts, this coming Sunday against the Giants.
I think Stefanski will make a concerted effort to get him involved early to try to kind of get him out of this little mini slump. And I also think the more he gets to play with Deshaun, it'll get better. There's been a couple times, even yesterday, where Deshaun throws a ball to him deep down the sideline, and he's pretty well covered in man coverage, and the ball goes maybe 2 yards out of bounds. Amari Cooper kind of jumps up, gives it a hand, but no real shot at a catch at it. I feel like if they've played together longer, more reps together, that's a back shoulder throw.
Mm-hmm.
The defender's got his back to him. Deshaun puts that on his back shoulder. Amari Cooper stops, catches that, keeps 2 feet in bounds, turns around, catches it on the back shoulder. It doesn't have to be a fade. That's going to come with repetitions between those two, between his injuries and the suspension. And, they haven't got to be together a ton. They didn't get to throw a lot together in the offseason because he was rehabbing from the shoulder surgery. So I think that'll come. And like you said, Amari Cooper has been too good throughout not just his NFL career, but even going back to college, where he didn't forget how to play football. And he's a professional. He's a Nick Chubb of wide receivers. He's going to figure it out. They're going to continue to target him. He's going to play better. And the opportunities, like you said, the opportunities are there. We're targeting him downfield. We targeted him 17 times in the first 2 games. Eventually they're going to click. And to me, these are the kinds of things that you see in early season games while the offenses are catching up to the defenses. These are the issues that I was okay with seeing in week 1. We talked about going into week 1, how we didn't necessarily expect fireworks, if timing's a little off, there's a little bit of miscommunication on offense. It's kind of normal for your first maybe even month of the season on offense while it's kind of catching up to the defenses. These are real life problems that, even not just the Browns have these problems. As opposed to just, forgetting how to play football last week. So I think Amari Cooper's going to figure it out. He's never not figured it out. He's been great everywhere he's ever played.
For sure. And I'm very confident he'll be okay. This is not going to be a season-long situation. But for me, the drops are, those suck. They're like a concentration, like you said, lack of repetition with the quarterback, all those kind of things. What bothered me the most yesterday was one play. And it was the critical third down. We had to get pick up this first down to keep the ball late in the game. And Deshaun hits him, Amari, across the middle or whatever. Amari Cooper's 1 yard past the sticks. I'm like, sweet, we got the first down. And he jumps backwards to try to evade a tackle or something. And we end up getting hit short. Now, Jameis comes in, ends up picking up the fourth down, everything. That's great. But what if he didn't? You know what I mean? And now we're looking back at Amari saying, well, what were you thinking? Like, you're a seasoned veteran. You know, like when you're past the sticks, just go down if you're going to get hit. We just need the first down. We don't need a huge play. So that was the one play that bothered me for a veteran like Amari.
Almost more than the drops.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because that's just situational football. And I hate poor situational football because that's in your control. Knowing where the sticks are, not having pre-snap penalties, not calling a pass when there's no time, the other team has no timeouts. Situational football is where you win or lose football games in the NFL. The margin of error is so thin in the NFL. We've talked about this so many times. At the average margin of victory, it's like 3.5 or 4 points. There's not a lot of room for error. I mean, that's why typically the team that loses the turnover battle loses, because or if you have like the way the Browns won this game, being 2 for 13 on third down, having over 100 yards in penalties, playing poor situational football. We're lucky the Jags were just as bad, if not worse, in those situations than the Browns, because typically you lose these football games. So that kind of gives you an idea of how talented the Browns roster are, that they were able to overcome 100 yards in penalties. They were able to overcome Amari Cooper jumping backwards and giving up a first down that he already had. They were able to overcome Stefanski making a bonehead play call late in the game and still get the win on the road. So, situational football needs to be better. And again, we did say the Browns played perfect, but there's so much positive to build off of. And it's so much easier to look at the film and go into practice and improve on a W than it is to go in after a loss. Because then you're thinking, if we just would have done this, we'd have a win. And now you're going, well, we won, but we just got to keep working on this. So the mindset's completely different.